You've done everything right. The degrees, the job, the success, but something still feels missing.
Mm.
Today, I'm sitting down with Alissa Dawn Gardenhire to talk about what it really takes to break the cycle and build a life that's fully yours. Alissa, thank you.
Hey, how are you?
I'm well. I love these deep conversations. We've been getting it on already before we even got on camera. So let's get right into it. Alissa,
Yes.
how do you show up in the world?
I show up as a free woman. I think that's one of the way that I show up first.
Ooh.
And the thing that strikes people who know me, that my freedom is my number one way of showing up. I think past my freedom, the way that I show up is as a model for openness,
Mm.
fearless openness, I'll say. I think when people talk to me and I'm sharing or I'm writing or I'm blogging or I'm writing a video or I'm in a
Yeah.
video or I'm in an interview like this, the commentary always is, you are so brave. I don't feel like I'm brave. It's just the way that I am to be so vulnerable and so open. I said, what am I scared of? What are you scared
Okay.
of?
Hello.
And how are you living as anything other than yourself? I don't do that.
I
So
know that.
I show up as me in these places.
I
And,
love it
and
so much.
thank you. And I think that my part of my magic sauce has to do with demonstrating that for folks so that they feel free to do it as well. Yeah,
I love that. We have so much in common, man.
we do. I think so.
I
I'm
love
excited.
that. I love
I'm
your man.
excited to be your friend.
I know, right? This is going to be so doggone fantastic. This ride we're on. I love it. I love it. I love it. Well,
Thank you.
Miss Elisa,
Yes, ma'am.
let's talk about what brought you here.
Mhm.
Like, what is the combination that has gone on in your journey that
Mhm.
you are here in this moment and season of time in your life?
You know, it's funny when I tell this story, I say, I think the part of the reason that I am able to stand in the place that I am today is because I was a well-loved Black girl.
I love that. I
My
love that.
parents were so incredibly solid for me, and they divorced when I was young, but
Mhm.
their standing for me as parents I never felt it waver, not one moment. And it was not just their love, but the community love and my extended family and friends and school and teachers and all that stuff that just set such a solid foundation for me as a child and as
Mhm.
a young woman, that it gave me a lot of, I guess this is what people are commenting on, a lot of confidence in myself to be myself in the world.
I love that so much. We were just sharing that. That's one of the goals that I had for my son. I wanted him
You
to
said
be
that.
himself
Yep, you said
and
that.
to know that you as a Black woman receive that. I, I'm taking notes, by the way, too. I'm a note taker because
Yeah.
usually my guests have some sage for me, and I'm here for it. I
Got,
love that.
got a pen and paper, pencil and paper here too, so I'm
A
good.
well-loved Black girl.
Yeah, I think it really set me up, just to be honest. I think it really set me up to feel confident in the world. And I grew up in a predominantly white environment as a kid. Like I was the only Black child in my elementary school all 6 years I was there. But I didn't take that as a problem.
Ashe.
It didn't show up for me as problematic. Like I'm still friends with kids went to first grade with, because our friendships were genuine. I don't know if it was the 70s and the Bay Area or whatever. I don't know if it was my parents being so solid. My father volunteered at my school every week after the divorce. Every week through elementary school, he was there at my school.
Was committed. I
He
love that.
was. And my mother was there kind of playing bad cop when she needed to make sure everybody knew that I wasn't to be messed with.
I know
And
that.
so it just set me up, I think, to be able to feel confident. And then, I was pretty good at school. So that was never a particular challenge. I actually went to live with my dad as a middle schooler through high school before I went to college. So
Mhm.
I switched parents from one
Mm.
house primary to the other. And I think being with him also, he was my number one cheerleader my whole life.
Yeah,
Number one
yeah,
cheerleader.
yeah.
Yeah.
Now, do you have siblings?
I don't. I'm an only.
Ah,
I'm an only.
he's
Yeah.
a girl dad through and through.
Really, really was. And would brag on me when I went to Harvard. I got my PhD at Harvard.
Oh,
And
all right, all right. Stick your chest out, girl.
he loved to say she did it right. She went to school, she got a job, she bought a house, then she got married, then she had a baby. Like he used to, I would be like, and he would introduce me as, oh, have you met my daughter, Dr. Gardenhire? And I'm like, yeah, I'm Alissa. Hi. But just like to have somebody who was so um, positively supportive of me, and
Yeah.
he's just a dynamic and amazing person. And then like I told you this a little earlier, like my mother said to me when I was 5 or 6, Alissa, you're going to be a Renaissance woman. And I said, what's that, Mom? And she said, you're going to be able to do many things well. And
Mm,
I said, okay. And so I feel my cousins, I have a very dear cousin who's a pretty risk averse person, although she's coming out of it now in her mid 50s. And she's
mm.
like, you always take risks. You always go for it. I said, I feel like I can. And I feel like that is a
Ah,
blessing that my family and my community gave me as a young kid.
I love that. She spoke life into you, spoke that right over you. So you already knew that. I used to
100%.
tell my son he had two choices. You can go to college or you can go to college.
There you go.
He'd
Right.
be like, I'd pick the last one. So he knew the whole time that that was the game plan. We're going to college. I wanted it for him, but he
Mhm.
was also wanting it for me because I knew that the knowledge, no one could take that away from you. And he's an only child, and I wanted him to have that kind of that brotherhood and things
Absolutely.
and know that, right? That community, which we had a beautiful community and nuggets along the way. I love this so much for you.
Oh,
What
thank
is,
you.
what is
We're both boy moms, so I relate to a lot. I relate to and an only as well. So I relate to what you're saying as well.
we
And
have so many commonalities, even some down to some of the things that you said, and I was like, I can't wait to tell her about that. I can't wait to tell her about that. I'm trying not to do it throughout the whole interview. It's like there's another one. Wow.
I got time. If you got time, I got
When's your birthday?
January 13th.
January 13th. That's
Capricorn.
Capricorn.
Mhm.
I'm Pisces. I'm a
Oh, people on
full-blooded
YouTube.
Pisces.
Yeah.
Yes, February 20th.
Some of my favorite people are Piscean, so
We're the best people ever.
I
Ever.
love it.
Yes.
Love it.
We like to shine the light for you, hold away, all of the things.
I said
So
I love it up to the point where you guys sacrifice too much for yourselves.
that's exactly what happens.
Yeah.
Exactly what happens. But then when we get it,
Yeah.
when we get it, we
Yeah.
set the world on fire because now we go back and help those women that we see.
Mhm.
That's one of my magic sauces, and that I've seen people my entire life, even as a little person, I was empowering and all the things,
Mhm.
and realizing that, oh, I can help them.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful thing. And I feel that energy in you also,
Yeah.
right? It's like, okay, let me take this over here and put it in the pot to help the people, help the community because it was also given to you.
Mhm.
I
No,
love it.
yeah, absolutely. I think probably our approaches may be different, which is why this works, because we all sort of have this vision of, my main vision is
Alissa.
around promoting the well-being of women because we're
Mhm.
so magical, we're so important. We don't understand our importance enough. The world and society takes our contribution for granted, and I'm tired. I don't like that. So my mission is to is I don't like to use the word empowerment because I think it's overused, but helping women understand who they are, who we are, what we give, and what we deserve in the world is
Ashe.
everything that is about everything that I do.
I
Yeah.
love that. I love that. I love that. So tell us all about your work. What does it look like?
Sure. So this Renaissance woman blessing, I used to think it was a curse. I was like, I don't know what to do because I like to do everything. But I've come to terms with it. And I said, well, given whatever my talents are, whatever my knowledge is, whatever my training is, whatever my lived experience is, let me bring it forward around this mission around women's well-being.
I love that.
Part of it is this project I have called Breaking the Cycle. Recently, I read, not that recently, I guess I read a book called The Big Leap by
Yeah,
Gay Hendricks in Genius Zone. And it really resonated with me again upon reviewing it. And I said, in this little box that we're in, my
yeah,
life looks a certain way, but I definitely have had the highs and the lows, as we all have.
absolutely.
And I also, like everyone else, have the things inside of me I that said, this is what you can have. You can have this much,
Mm,
but you can't have more. Or if you get more here, then you have to get less here. You have to create less somewhere else. And that's what the book really touches on. But for me, breaking the cycle is an early part of the framework that I have in supporting women's well-being and empowerment. We'll just use it because it's there. But it's understanding that women who may be powerful on paper, who
yeah,
may be succeeding in certain areas, still feel stuck in some patterns that get in the way of their full expansive expression of their life.
absolutely.
You understand what I mean? So it's really and so breaking the cycle is a workshop in a very small group, intimate setting. We do it virtually, and occasionally I'll do them in person as well, depending on where I am. That's the other
Mm,
part of my story. I'm kind of a nomad now that my kid is launched in the world. I find myself all over the place. So virtual works well in terms of delivering this part of the business. But it's really a guided workshop to help women recenter and really understand sort of what Gay Hendricks talks about in his book as upper limits, where if you're succeeding in somewhere else, you may get sick somewhere else. If your money's coming up in this way, you may lose something else because we have a set temperature that happens early before we know it. When we're
mm,
children, we have a sort of a set temperature for our happiness. And there are ways that we work against ourselves, sometimes unknowing, lots of times unknowingly,
absolutely.
and then in turn normalize that. Well, we'll just say, well, that's just how it is or whatever, when that's not true. It's not
Mm,
normal, and we can't break through that. So
I love that.
that's what we do in the workshops.
I love that. I love that. And yeah, I love that. What what led you to break the cycle? Typically, it's either someone's had an experience that changed, shifted everything, or maybe it's something that you learned and you know it's valuable. What led you to break the cycle?
I think it's just my natural desire to live a fully expanded life. I believe that God, spirit, whoever you believe in, put me here, you here, all of us here for a reason, and not to be small and constrained and contained, but to be fully expansive. So my own desire to feel like my life was fully expansive makes me look at it, makes
Mm,
me interrogate my life and say, okay, here's a pattern that I see. You seem not to like it. And the way I identify it is it's something I'm complaining about. If I'm complaining about something, then I'm like, okay, so why is this persistent enough that this is bothering you? So
mm,
let's look at this more deeply. It can be around money. Money is a big issue for a lot of folks. That's one of the areas that folks can be blocked in. It definitely has come up for me from time to time. It can be around relationships. It can be around body. It can be around any of the areas of humaning.
mm.
And so for me, like I really said, this thing bugs me. What is this?
That
And then,
inward
yeah,
perspective.
it's
Yeah.
it's definitely internal, but for me, part of the larger structure of the work that we do with ADG Group, when we're working with women and breaking the cycle, like I said, is really the first step in that, is understanding that what happens for us is, I think in particular as women, is that what we experience personally
Yeah.
also ends up being how fully we're able to express ourselves publicly in our careers
That's
and our
true.
jobs and our businesses, all those things. And so, we're both too young for this, but in the 60s they said the personal is the political. That's what they were saying with feminism back then. And
Mm,
it's absolutely still true. I mean, men, I love them. I'm a boy mom. They're great, but they're not my concern currently. I'm concerned with women because the way that we do it, the way that we live, the way that we express ourselves has to become normalized in our society. So that's my secret agenda, is that everything female, normalizing everything that's female.
I love that. I love that. You got some gems. These normalizing everything that's female. That need
Yeah.
to be on a t-shirt.
I'm like, I will check you later about your your merchandising connections, because I think it's important, because our society, everything we see in our society is normed on males. Everything. Like, you can't point to one thing that is not is centered on how they are physically, like how cars, airbags are too strong for women because they built it for men, but we're driving too,
Absolutely.
to like the political system, the financial system, business, healthcare, all of it.
All the things. Well, we are in this Western culture in a patriarchal society for sure.
Absolutely. And so, the more advanced work in within ADG Group really has to do with, again, having this framework of normalizing everything female, but training women to ask, is this good for me? This is the personal part, but also, is this good for us when they're in public spaces, when they're in leadership positions, when they're in their jobs, when they're in any place they're operating outside of themselves, thinking about centering women's needs, women's well-being.
Absolutely. Because it's
Yeah.
crazy the way that they want to
Like,
keep us small and in this box of what they believe in their minds for sure.
absolutely. And they don't, God bless them, they don't have our imagination. And the thing about women's well-being is inclusive of children and men, where men prioritizing men's well-being is not inclusive of either of those things.
Absolutely.
And so that's, there are larger reasons why I want to promote and train women to be able to think in these ways and operate and function in these ways, because it doesn't exclude men.
Absolutely.
They don't, part of the reason I think they're so reactive is they're afraid of being left out.
Uh,
Yeah.
see that?
So,
See that?
yeah. And so, again, they're not my central concern, but if and when it comes up, I explain like this: when women are doing well, you're doing well as well.
I'll share.
But when we look at how our society functions around the patriarchy and around male norms of their well-being, it has to do with domination generally.
Absolutely.
It has to do with women and children being seen as resources as opposed to autonomous sovereign beings.
Mhm.
And it's a problematic, because I'm a woman and I'm an autonomous sovereign being, and I'll be damned if I get anything less than that.
Ah, ring the bell, baby. Yes, I love that. This
Yeah,
leads me to I like to ask, I'm known as the disruptor around these parts.
right.
I want to know what the disruptor in you had to disrupt.
I said I was going to be vulnerable. So I had a 20 plus year period of completely ignoring my own well-being, my own self-interest, my own inner voice, my gut, all kinds of things. Behind the little heartbreak that happened when I was in my late 20s, I said, I can't trust myself. And then I spent 20 years being small,
Mm,
deferring to people who didn't know better than me,
mm.
sacrificing, giving, overgiving, overdoing,
Oh, I know all that.
underbeing.
Yeah.
all that. But the tiny little seed inside of me said, no, that is not you. Like, I get why you're doing this. I get that you had your feelings hurt. I get that you didn't process this trauma properly. I get why all this is happening. But no, ma'am, inside, my inside said no. And so finally, after coming to a point where I said, okay, all right, all right, all right, all right. We've gone through, we've hurt ourselves enough because ultimately that's what it was. I mean, it's very easy for me to point fingers at this one, that one, this one, but I tolerated all of it. I
Absolutely.
accepted all of it. I kept my mouth shut when I shouldn't have, whatever all those things were that I did, that women do as a matter of natural course, sometimes for our safety, but lots of times because it feels like within this social structure, this matrix that we're in, that those are the only avenues we have to progress or
Mhm.
stay at
Maintaining the
least
status
even.
quo.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Luckily, I have this brain that is visionary, and I have this intellect that wants to understand patterns naturally,
Yes.
and this desire to speak. And like I said at the beginning, a confidence in myself to speak up where other people may not feel comfortable, to be vulnerable, to share the hard stuff that I went through and the positive vision that I have at the same time. So that's what I had to finally disrupt was my, I'm not going to say addiction, but
Mm.
addiction to second guessing myself and deferring to others. I had to finally say, you know better for you, if nothing else, you know better for yourself. Let's start with that, sis. So yeah, there were years of me asking that question that I ask clients now, is
Mm-hmm.
this good for me? Combined with what do I want?
Absolutely. That's the powerful one.
Yeah, because I think in particular for women who've been pleasers, who've been in service, who've been rewarded for being good, all those things, we lose track of what we want because we can tell ourselves what we want is what everybody else says that we want, or the things that they want are the things that we want, and that's not necessarily the case.
I love that.
Yeah.
What did you find when you asked yourself those questions? What
Mhm.
came
What I wanted was the thing that I think that was the first thing you asked me. How do I show up? Is freedom. It's always been that. It's always been understanding or believing in my own sovereignty. That's a word that I love, which means
up?
I am in charge of me and I decide what is good for me and what I want and where I want to go. So freedom wraps all that up for me.
Mm.
And that is sort of the direction that I had to go towards this freedom. And I've loved being a mom. It's great. I have a young adult now. He's quasi independent, learning how to do that. And the last couple years for me have really been, yes, pursuing his dream, yes, putting him in position, yes, like sacrificing. Like I had a thriving tutoring company in New Jersey that I closed within a month and moved us from New Jersey to Michigan in 1 month.
Wow, that's what I'm talking about.
December 6th, 2023, we decided to move. January 6th, 2024, we lived in Michigan.
I love that. That's what I'm talking about, right? That
Yeah.
is freedom. You make a decision and you move in the direction of the decision, even if
But
it's moving states.
yeah, and I had to. And I'll say, people say, "Oh my God, you sacrificed so much for your son, and you did this. You set him up for his dream. So now he's a Division I athlete. All this stuff is happening, right?" But in the back of my head was, I have to get this kid launched successfully so I can be free again. I loved parenting him, but 19 years of day-to-day momming was enough. And I said, you have to go on to your next thing, and I have to ensure that you do that so that I can now go on to my next thing. And I'm sitting here in Mexico
Okay. All
Now,
right, girl. What you
freely
doing in Mexico?
moving through the world, building this business and traveling. I discovered house sitting. So I'm house sitting. There's a dog and a cat around here somewhere that I'm in charge of. But it's been a magnificent way to see more of the world. I did some house sits in America since I left Michigan in January. And then this is my first international one. I'm going to be in Mazatlan next. And then I think I'm actually going to go to Ecuador and get my temporary residency there.
I love it. Why Ecuador?
Ecuador, beautiful, good climate, excellent food scene, not overwhelmed with expats yet, but there are enough. Cost of living, obviously, and actually the relative ease of getting a resident visa there. Easier than Mexico and a lot of other places.
And
So
I would imagine there's quite a few black and brown people.
there are. There are. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, um, yeah, so it just that's emerging right now, but I think after I'll be done with house sitting in about 6 weeks now in
Hmm.
Mexico. I'm gonna go back to my stuff is in Phoenix. It's a long story, but anyway, some of my stuff is in Phoenix. I'm gonna fly back to the States to Phoenix for 2 days, and then I think I'm going to Ecuador, and then we'll see what happens after that.
That. I love this so much for you.
Thank you, love.
I
Yeah.
love that.
But
What?
it's freedom for living how I want to, and then modeling that for other people.
Absolutely. That's
If
what
nothing else, modeling it for other people.
I love that. I love
Mhm.
that. And so you are coaching from all over the world for real,
Mhm.
for real.
Yeah, and it was on my list. Like I'm not a big like vision board person, but I like create a mental vision board if nothing else.
Mm,
I said I'm going to be in Mexico in the summer. I didn't know I was going to be in Mexico in the summer, but it's summer and I'm in Mexico.
that's
And
right.
then, and I said the business that I have next, because I did have after I quit being a social policy researcher, which I did for about 15 years, in New York, and
Is
I
that
opened
where the PhD comes in?
that's where I did, yeah, that's where I applied most of my PhD stuff. So it's trying to understand what kind of programs help people move out of poverty. That's what I did. So that's what I'm
Mm,
known for. If you Google me, you'll see that up on the Googles. But then I said, okay, so education seems to be the biggest lever to help people move out of poverty. So then I quit and then I opened a tutoring center and I ran that for almost 7 years in New Jersey.
I
But
love it.
once I let that go, I said, I'm never going to have a location-based business again because I want to be able to move around the world like I want to. So I definitely like doing stuff in person, can travel to the States to go do that,
I'm
can
sure.
have people come wherever I happen to be to do that. But, the bulk of the business ends up being virtual because I need to be able to freely move around like I want.
I
Yeah.
love that. I love that. So tell us what breaking the cycle looks like for the woman out there. Who is she? Who are you calling in? What do you want her to do?
It's definitely for people who are kind of like me, like working moms, I think are ideal for this because we have it coming from all different directions. And so accessing that part of yourself inside that you're saying this isn't working. Yes, it may look good on paper. Yes, it may other people may be satisfied with what they're getting from me,
Oh,
but
sure.
I'm concerned about what I'm getting for me from this life.
I love that.
Yeah.
And what actions do you want her to take?
I'd love women to they can set up a call with me if they want to follow up and just do a call and let's just see if we're a good fit. They can, if they're ready, they can sign up for the workshop right now. Like I have a link available for folks to sign up for the workshop right now. I'm going to host one, but before the end of the month in June. Like we've got some sales going, but I want to maybe get 2 or 3 more people in before I run this next one.
So you got two or three
Um,
slots right now
that's it. 2 or 3 slots
they're ready.
left. And then we will go from there and just like engage. Like I've got a Substack. People can subscribe to my Substack called The Founding Mothers. And
Mhm.
you can go on the Substack and you can learn more about what I think about things for women there. You can buy a subscription. I'd be happy for you to do that if you want. There's a free level and then there's a paid level for that.
Right.
Yeah, all that. And then, the other stuff that I do is again around women's well-being, but kind of working with men around women's well-being.
Oh,
Yeah,
tell us more.
right. So I've got a program called Deeper, which
Mhm.
talks about how men and women can learn to communicate effectively, intimately, but also how to use non-sexual touch as an opener for trust building between for people in relationships. But also, I recently I've been talking, reaching out to people in my network about that. And there are lots of single men who need this as well. So I think I'm going to actually figure out how to serve them as well independently so that they can get to a place of strength in terms of their ability to communicate effectively with women.
I love that. Now, what brought that about? Was that in your work with the women and they,
It's funny. All of I don't know that I'm unique, but I definitely feel like my lived experiences end up informing the kind of things I want to work on. So back when Obama was president, I was saying people need to be connected to each other more. Like connection is critical. And
Mhm.
so I started running these workshops as part of something I called the City Love Tour, which
Mhm.
were these workshops that I ran where different groups of people who were strangers would come together. I would pair people up and we would use these 36 questions that were developed by a psychologist to help them connect. And we would go, these people were strangers. So they would go in a 45 to an hour minute workshop. We would go from a level 0. They would report who are you connected to, how are you connected to these folks, to
Right.
a level 5 on a 7-point scale. In 45 minutes, we were able to get people super connected in that way.
I
And
love it.
so that was part of the thinking around that, around really building bridges again between people and figuring out how to help people communicate better with one another and see how they're connected. And then I wrote a book called How to Be
Really?
Her Favorite Lover Ever, which is a guide for men around communication and behavior around sexuality. And that book came sort of out of my own lived experiences, but also again around, I said, things have got to be better. There's no reason for us to be so bad at these things about communication and helping them understand and see women beyond the objective way that they often do. And understanding that when they learn to connect and communicate with women effectively, that the things that they want open up in a
Absolutely.
way that's super expansive. And so that book came out around the same time that I was opening the tutoring center. And I said, I don't think I can do both of these things at once. And so I picked the tutoring center over this book around sexuality. And then from there, I also happened to go to something called a cuddle party. I don't know if you've ever heard of this.
Tell us.
Cuddle
It makes me think a lot of things. So I want to hear what you have to say because
So, cuddle parties are non-sexual events, explicitly non-sexual communication and connection events that allow people to really get firm around consent and boundaries, really get firm around their own bodily autonomy, but also allow you to experience non-sexual touch in a way that I have to say that first event changed my brain chemistry. It changed my chemistry of my brain of how I understood touch. Because as a woman, I think we understand touch in specific ways that when we get touch, that's not like a hug from your kid or your best friend giving you a hug. It's generally leading to something.
mm, mm,
And under experiencing a room full of people who understood the rules and were all agreeing to play by these rules of snuggling and cuddling and spooning and whatever literally changed my life. So I started working for the company as a researcher and got certified myself as a cuddlist, so a non-sexual touch professional. I did that periodically.
Non-sexual touch profession.
Yeah, and then I used to run my own cuddle parties in my home, which I would invite people in, and they transform people's lives. They really do because in our culture, I think like in certain like in Latin America, people hug and kiss each other all the time, and it's natural and it doesn't mean a thing. In the West and in America, we don't have that. We don't have the benefit of that. So touch often comes, it's either sexual touch and something that men experience a lot, it's violence. Like I think a lot of the violence that we see in men is some way that they want to be connected to something
Yeah,
physically.
power. Yeah.
It's a way. So those things all came together to create what Deeper is now, which is communication exercises, which is connection exercises, which is boundary setting and consent exercises, and then is understanding and exploring non-sexual touch. And so that's how all that came together. And then it also has some elements of my book in it, which
I
pulls.
love that. When you first said it and explained it, it sounded to me like, okay, she's serving the whole body of the woman, because we are always concerned about the men and the children, like you said, right?
Right,
And
right.
more than likely, if she's in your orbit, I would imagine she's wondering, like, how do I get him there? I'm investing in myself, all of the things. What does that look like? Is it typically the couples that are of the women that have joined
Mhm,
in breaking the cycle, or
mhm.
is it because you gotta work on you first. But then
Absolutely.
we also know innately we have a desire to be in relationship and in community. That's
Mhm.
what we were created for. What does that
Absolutely.
look like in,
So sort of that journey. Some of my breaking the cycle women and some of the women who work in ADG Group can come over to the deeper work. I don't like push it. I think I try to make people aware of everything that I do, but I'm not like I said you came here for this. Let's do this. Um, the deeper work can be initiated by either men or women in
okay.
couples. I definitely do a lot of outreach to men in particular, and I say, you need this. You need this. Your partner needs this. And my thing is, of course, how can I make her life better? But
Mm.
I told a story. I don't think this post is up yet, but I was
Mhm.
reflecting just recently about one of my very first clients as a cuddlist when I first was doing this cuddling work as a non-sexual touch professional. And it actually was a friend of mine, and I was still in my probationary period, so I was still needed to practice. He needed a certain number of hours. So
Yeah.
I was still practicing with him. And we'd been friends for years, good friend. Never, I was single, he was single too, but we're just friends. We like never went into any other area. But he's kind of known as a ladies' man, I'll say. I was gonna say womanizer, but ladies' man will just be nice. Um, and I love people. I love you are how you are, do you?
Mm.
But so he's definitely used to engaging with women in a certain way,
Mm.
typically.
Mhm.
Either you're in this friend bucket, off limits, or you're in this I will sexualize you bucket for
Mhm.
him. So bringing together our friendship, but also physical proximity and closeness ended up being extremely challenging for him, right? Like he's not necessarily have thought of me in that way, but if I'm holding him, after we established the rules and the ground rules and all the stuff, he was shaking and sweating, and we were processing live what he was going through. He said, normally, if I'm in a situation with a woman this close, I'm going to be doing X, Y, or Z. to get through to progress through this thing that I'm normally trained and patterned to do. But within that container, he couldn't do that, obviously.
Right. Right.
So he grew and he talked about it. He said, "This is groundbreaking for me. I've never done this before. This is completely new way for me to understand myself." And that experience gave that to him, where he came out, he said, "I'm so proud of myself. That's never happened before. I've
This.
never."
I
Yeah,
love.
it was huge. And so that's part of this training, and deeper has to do with men coming to understand themselves in new ways.
I love that. So that can only be experienced in person. So do you take it on tour?
I in the new iteration, we've got a dog and his dog walker is here. We're gonna walk around. Is that okay? I'm gonna walk around with you. Astro, baby, let's go. Josie is here. Come on,
Hey,
bud.
that's what life
Sorry.
is all about, and freedom, right?
Freedom, I can do
You see
all
it in real time. I
and
love
do all
it.
these things.
Yeah.
Um, hey, you're going for your big walk, buddy. All right. I'll see you. Gracias.
I love that.
Um,
And keep it moving.
keep it moving. Like, so for men, your question was, I'm sorry, I lost a little bit
It,
of it.
are you taking it on tour?
Oh yeah, so my larger vision for that work is to do live work with couples, to do live workshops with men as well, and to work one-on-one with folks. And you know, the I can tell that story of a man, but I can also tell you that story of my working with women as well. Like um one of my last clients when I was last doing this about a couple years ago, she was brand new, and
Hmm.
in her first session she also broke open, but in a completely different way, around feeling safety to be
Yeah.
vulnerable, to talk about her challenges and traumas in a way that she never had talked about them before, and being in, I don't say I have a magical touch, but being in a physical proximity where you're being held, where someone is there for you physically,
Yeah.
but in a way that is, again, like clearly non-sexual, can allow women also to access new parts of themselves as well. And so, yeah, that's definitely like one of the higher tier ways that you can work with me, but it is possible for sure.
Love this so much. I started to recognize early on. I had been in a relationship on and off. We had been in a relationship for 24 years trying to figure it out.
Yeah, I got you.
And I started realizing like sex, like that level of intimacy physically
Mhm,
was part of the problem,
mhm, mhm.
right? Like
Say more.
I
What do you mean?
felt like it was making me show up in ways that I didn't want to show up,
Okay.
right?
Mhm,
And I had decided I don't want to have sex with anyone,
okay.
right? I put everybody in the friend court category. We are friends,
Yep.
right? Like until I feel otherwise,
100%.
right?
That's your
And
sovereignty. That's your choice.
absolutely,
That,
absolutely.
that you may not have given yourself as a 20-year-old or a 30-year-old.
Oh, I was totally promiscuous. I was getting it in, but
Yeah,
I wanted to also.
likewise.
I'm
So
pretty good at what I do now.
that was
Okay.
like one of my favorite things to do.
Absolutely. It feels so doggone good physically.
Right.
And I mean, the body parts fit together like that for a
Right.
reason,
Kind of
right?
built to fit.
Yes.
It reminds me of a joke my dad told me. It wasn't a joke, but when I was young, so this is before I even started having sex, but I had a friend, a boy, a guy who liked me who was shorter than me. And
Yeah.
he said, everybody's the same size lying down. I was laughing.
Everybody at some point it
Right.
works.
Right.
I know that to be true.
That's too funny.
Oh
That's funny.
my God. But I love this so much because it also allows you especially women, to have that boundary. It makes me think about how Steve Harvey used to have that 90-day rule. Like
Oh,
everybody, 90 days. We could go longer than 90 days.
yeah. I mean,
Go longer than 90 days. And I feel it helps of so many other things come to the surface that wouldn't if you bed down all the time.
yeah, definitely. This is a Jill Scott term, but definitely
Mhm.
you can get digmatized where you're just
Mm,
like, oh, I think I love you. No, that's not what's happening, sis.
okay.
But you get confused, like very
Absolutely.
much so. And I think having clarity around that, having understanding, and then for me with my work, being fully empowered in non-sexual touch and communication, effective, intimate communication, gives you a strong foundation to be able to act and move forward. You're
Oh,
talking
shit.
about your relationship, and like when I reflect on the relationships that I've had, the thing that I need in them is friendship first.
Absolutely.
I was not friends with my ex-husband, not
Mm,
from the beginning, not now, kind of. But the thing that made it most challenging in our relationship for me is we didn't have a foundation of friendship. And the
mm,
relationships that were most satisfying to me have been the ones that were based in friendship first, or even if they started off romantic or whatever, that friendship was a core element of that. And
mm.
that took years of experience to get to that point now.
I
So
love that. I love
when I
that for you.
yeah, when I look forward, I'm so content being me, myself, and I. But, recently I just have said, if there's another partner for me, I understand the things that have to be in place, and that friendship has to be for me, has to be the initial part.
See, that is my default. Every person that I've been with, we've been friends.
Yeah. Yeah.
And even when it started off sexually,
Mhm.
we've been friends
Yeah.
because I'm a deep person. I like to be in deep conversation. I'm gonna ask you
Right.
all your business, all
Right.
of the things. And I like to create that open space. And I
Mhm.
didn't know that this was my magic sauce at the time that I was doing, was
Mhm.
creating that safety where people felt safe enough to open up and all of that. And
Yeah.
so it's always going that, and I feel like it naturally takes a course that feels good for me.
Mhm.
Then let it naturally happen, and rather than going in like this is the way it's going to be, like that sort of thing.
I
Because I found
mean,
that that's problematic.
right. I mean, you don't generally establish friendships with other people based on like what we're gonna do. No, you develop a friendship because you have things in common, you vibe, you like the
Yep.
same things, you're in the same space, you're cool, whatever. So why would that be different in this case? But it really often very much is different
Right,
in this
right,
case. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And I feel a lot of people equate the love to safety, especially women, because of what society has said it is for
Mm-hmm.
us.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Yeah,
And
like somebody's going to come along and make you happy, like
mhm.
they're responsible for your happiness. You're not responsible for your
You're
happiness.
gonna get a nasty surprise, sis, if you go down that route.
Yeah,
It's so funny. I was talking to one of my best friends yesterday, who's also an entrepreneur, and we were
yeah,
just laughing because we both have exes and kids. We're both boy moms. We're talking about stuff, and she said, "Oh, I wish the way that these girls nowadays have like all this information and TikTok and whatever. They good. They're much better about boundaries." I said, "Yeah, we were out there believing R&B songs."
yeah.
And fell into these traps.
And the little what are the little cartoon
Mhm.
characters.
Yeah,
Prince
the
Charming
fairy
is
tales
coming.
and the
Yeah.
rom-coms and all that jazz.
Yes, I love this so much for you. So where can the beautiful people out there that you serve find you?
Sure. I have a whole website called dralissa.com. That's one way you can reach me. You can follow, I have a little YouTube channel or a little TikTok. You can find those, Dr. Alissa
I
123.
can't say ain't that little, but okay.
Right, exactly. Not exactly. And, I think there'll be links in here to some of the ways you can reach out
Absolutely.
to me around
Drop them
programs.
all in the description box for you.
Absolutely. So I would love to support you. I really, that at this stage of my life, I know that that's why I've cleared this space, why I fought for my own freedom, so that I could be free to fully maximize how I can support women and men
I love that.
in
Well,
their
I
journey.
would love to receive your support. It feels so magical.
Thanks.
And I know we're locked in for a love you long time.
We got
I
this. We got this.
have one more question for you before we go. Well, maybe two.
Okay.
Is there anything else you'd like to share that maybe didn't come up?
I have another program which is not advertised and not named, like purposely not named. But if you are a woman who is interested in being a world builder, you should
Mhm.
hit me up. You can DM me. You can find me any of the ways. You can go find me on LinkedIn, wherever you want to find me. But if you are somebody who understands that this matrix doesn't work quite right, and you want to be involved in a framework with other women who want to create something new, you can do that.
Mm,
That's like an exciting thing that I've got, but literally it doesn't have a name on purpose because I said when you name something, then that gives people something to hook onto to try and pull it down. So
mm,
that's that.
I love
And then
that.
just say, ask yourself, is this good for me? If you're watching this, male or female, whoever, but women in particular, please ask yourself in every moment, even in the small moments, is this good for me? And then move
Love
accordingly.
that. I love that. I am okay, maybe more than two.
I got time.
Um, I am curious, you've gone through that journey. What were some of the tools that were beneficial to you that might be able to help someone else? A book, podcast, resource. You mentioned the big leap.
Big Leap and Genius Zone, those books have been instrumental to me because it really, the thing that I enjoy most about Gay Hendricks' writing is that he really believes that we can have it all, but not in some pie in the sky, airy fairy way, but in a practical way that making decisions about how you live your life matters. The choices that you make matter, and that you can have more than you've allowed yourself to have. So it's definitely guiding force for me in terms of how I go about it. It gave me confidence to say, I don't want to do this other small thing. I want to do this big thing. I want to do these transformative things. Like I've known for the last 3 or 4 years that I don't want to waste time doing things that don't make a difference. And I need the work that I need to do has to be impactful.
I
So
love that. Well,
that's part
it
of that.
sounds
So
like
those are two great books. I love Reverend Ike. I don't know if you know Reverend Ike, but Reverend Ike is he's gone now, but he was a preacher back in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, 70s, 80s. I think he died. But he's a black preacher, but he's talking about money. He's talking about manifesting a life that you want, and he's speaking to us. So whoever
mm,
you think us is, he's speaking to us. And he's not talking about being small and poor and this and that and suffer and get it in heaven and whatever. But he's talking about God put us here to enjoy this world now. He's a
gosh.
wonderful teacher. He's a wonderful teacher.
And you said he's from when? The
Uh, I think he died maybe in the early 90s. So, but he was active in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. And there's tons of videos, there's tons of stuff on YouTube from him. His his foundation is still active. You can get his books and that kind of stuff.
I this is new for see. That's why I got to take my notes. I
Yeah.
I love this. I love
Reverend
this.
Ike. He's wonderful. I mean, there's a lot of spiritual teachers who are great who have influenced me over time, but I'll shout him out. Um, and then I just think that people need to learn to be quiet.
Sit with themselves, huh?
Right. Just can you sit with yourself and try to hear what you are saying to yourself, and that understand you do have a higher being, a higher self who's looking out for you, and learning how to connect with that and trust with that. And I'd say on the flip side that as addicted as I am to these things, that there's stuff in here that is not for your benefit, and that everything you see on here somebody created for a reason, and you don't necessarily know what that reason is. So be thoughtful about how you use those things. That's what I'd say.
I love that. Even the if it's the iPhone, the story behind how and why it was created is
Mhm.
like, if
Exactly.
you only you knew that, like, whoa.
Right. And your attention is the thing that they're trying to get because that's
Absolutely.
probably the most valuable currency that there is. And so
And
your
time,
attention and your focus the is the source of all the power that there is. So figuring out how to use that for yourself, I would advise people to figure that out. If I can be helpful, if Selena can be helpful, let us help you too.
absolutely, because my phone stays on do not disturb.
Mine too.
Period.
I don't have time for it. I decide when and where and how.
How?
Yeah,
Absolutely. I love this so much for the both of us. I
thank you.
appreciate you being in this space. I have one final question.
Yes, I'm ready.
Do you have any questions for me?
I do. Like if you, well, maybe it's two-parter. This is the first time that we have, in an in-depth way, interacted. What's your take on me?
Oh, oh, I love that. I
Hmm.
love that. I think I shared that with you a little bit as well. I love your calmness. I think you have a beautiful, sultry voice, a calm demeanor. I can see how you create safe spaces for others. I love that. And I know I use the word love a lot because I love a lot of things.
Good. We
And I
need more,
like sharing.
more, not less of that. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's how I raised my son. Like we probably told ourselves 50 times a day, "I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you," because I wanted that little brown baby to be affirmed and know no matter what and where he showed up in this world, this how we get down.
I love that. Yeah.
You are loved, and I'm coming for you if you need anything.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And I sensed that in you that you are a warrior for the community, even though you have a calm spirit.
Mhm.
I can tell that we would be like really great girlfriends.
Yeah.
I love that. I can sense that you're strong. Your strength is a soft power
Mhm.
of that. And I
Mhm.
love that because um we need these mirrors,
Mhm.
right? For the women that we're called to serve to be able to help them know that this is possible.
Amen.
I'm more the warrior, I feel like, and more kind of
Mhm.
I'll get your whole life together in real life.
That's it right
And,
up.
and I can tell you put a little honey on it, right? And I love that about you.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's important that we need both. We need more.
Absolutely. Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
absolutely. Because sometimes when you say it's soft, people don't hear you.
Right.
And
Sometimes.
it's for them. And so
Mhm.
sometimes they needed to be like, boop, smacked right upside the head or in the face. And I
Absolutely.
will I will give you both.
Yes.
And I will hug you and love you all day.
All of
Go
that.
to the wall with you.
I think the way that I do it is I am pretty calm and
For sure.
easy, but I also am gonna tell you the truth in a way that you never thought about it before.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
I
Me
do.
too.
Yep.
And I love that. So I
Good.
I think you are a beautiful mirror for me.
Thank you. Likewise.
And I'm grateful for that, especially when that comes in my path.
No.
Be like, oh, okay, this is somebody that I could really hang out with and we could like fully be ourselves.
100%. I think that's such a valuable way of being, but it speaks to our own self-awareness and self-confidence. Because I
Absolutely.
think when you find yourself in a space where you can't be yourself, it's because the other people in that space don't know how to be themselves either.
Don't know how to be themselves there. Right. And it's probably that little bit of learned behavior
Mhm.
of not being your full self because you don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. You want to be kind. You want to be the good, nice person when
Mhm.
just be yourself.
Right.
I love what
Go ahead.
Deion Sanders says, right?
Mhm.
He says, don't let my confidence affect your insecurities. Isn't it something like that?
I think he says something like that. It's funny you mentioned Coach Sanders because, as you know, my son was at Colorado,
Oh,
and got the benefit of working with him. He's such a powerful spirit, and I respect him so much. I think we're not talking about college football at all. College football is changing a lot really, really fast,
uh-huh.
but I love how he's standing up for the aspects of the development of the young folks there.
Absolutely. And loud and proud with his full chest. I think it's unfortunate what happened to his own children, but that's also a lesson and a blessing in
Yeah,
there for sure. For
and
absolutely.
they're standing in so much gratitude for where they are
And
as a.
guess what?
Hmm.
Shador is in Cleveland, Ohio. So
I
I
know
may
you're
go
excited.
to a Browns game just so I can see him because I am a football fan, but
Yeah,
I am not a fan of the bullshit that happens. So I just disengaged.
right.
This would allow me to. I love supporting young people. Gym rat all day. Gym rat everywhere my baby went, I went.
You're there too. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, my if people want to get I recently wrote a guide about how sports moms can use AI to navigate NCAA eligibility. I got
Yeah.
that too. So there's other stuff.
Now
So
that's a whole program too, is it not just a
I,
guide?
yeah, I do have a whole program for sports moms as well called Next Play Mom, which centers moms. So like I said, everything I do is for women's well-being. Sports moms is mothering on a whole nother level. And so my Next Play Moms program helps them navigate the eligibility part, but also manage the business of sports. And then also the parenting of that talented athlete, which is so multi-layered, so challenging. And I
Yeah.
love that work as well. I wasn't going to mention it, but we've got that too. We've got that too.
Of course, we're gonna mention it all. Hey, you
I
are
think that's everything. I think I said everything.
a multifaceted human being
Thank you, love.
in this very human experience that's happening down here.
I'm trying to
I love that.
maximize it. Let's
Yeah.
maximize it. Yeah.
Well, and I do believe I heard you say you wanted freedom to do what you wanted to do. Do it, baby. Do it all. Take up
Absolutely.
space.
I am equipped to do it all the things that I mentioned. I am expert at and will give you a transformation that will be beyond your expectation. My child actually just signed his first client as a coach for high school and middle school athletes today. And
Yes,
I'm also, passing it on to him as well so that he can share the benefit of his experience, which it's not been easy. He's had injury, he's had, disappointment, all the things, and has excelled as well. And I think giving young folks in middle school and high school that real lived experience of someone who's not that much farther ahead of them is so
absolutely.
powerful. So I'm super excited about that as well for
Shout
him.
him out and tell us all about it right real quick.
Jay Gardenhire is his name, and he's a football player, Division I football player, and his program is a 5-week program designed to give middle school and high school athletes, in particular football, basketball athletes, an inside look about what it's like to be a college athlete, but also what they need to be doing in middle school and high school to set themselves up to be successful. And not in the weird surface way that a lot of coaches go about it, like, oh, put your film out, do this and that. But like, you need to be locked in school for this reason, not for anybody else, but for you, because
Absolutely.
you have to live your life beyond this athletics. Or if you were able to be one of the 1% who goes pro, you need to be yourself, as we're saying about how you raised your son and how I raised my son. You need to be true to yourself through that, but also understand what this requires of you as you go through it. So we're super excited about that offering for him and
I'm
what he's able to
super
do.
excited too. I can't wait to put our boys together. They have
Yeah,
so much in common as well.
that's going to be awesome.
I love that. I love
Awesome.
that. Was there another part to your question? Did I answer it?
No, I think that was good. And then, yeah, I'm going to give you space. What do you want to plug? What are you plugging right now?
What am I plugging? Well, as I feel like I am the polar side of you, my dear sister, I
Mhm.
have my program is the Get Your Shit Together Circle,
Love it.
right? For that woman, Miss I, got time for everybody but myself,
Hmm.
aka
I've been her.
yeah. And what we do and what I created was it is out of my lived experience. It's
Hmm.
the journey of bringing all my skills together in business, life, and mindset coaching. I'm the strategist in all of those
Yes.
in numerous ways. It's a 12-month program
Hmm.
because a good coach will give you what you want and what you need,
There you go.
right? And we want all of the things, the money, the bag, all of the things, but
Hmm.
we got to get our life together, right? And what get your shit together stands for is the S is self-love care.
Love it.
Not just the self-love, but the self-love and the care.
Mm.
Right? Because sometimes it doesn't exist because we've been taught that it's external, it's outside of us. Someone else is going to come along and make us happy, and we don't even know what we want because we haven't asked ourselves. We haven't given ourselves permission to even ask ourselves.
Mm.
And so self-love, care, healing,
Hmm.
because there's layers to that thing, right?
Yep.
And identity, like who you really are, baby girl. Let's get to the core, your true essence, so that you can feel safe enough to
Hmm.
be yourself, who you really are.
Hmm.
Um, and then time, the biggest pain point that she has, right? Because she's willingly giving it to everyone else except for herself. And so we get real deep into what that looks like for her to take her power back, take her time back, stop giving it all away, and then also be supported in community. It's 5 activation phases
Hmm.
to it that require her to be able to get all of them to really have the transformation and the things that she seeks. And we know it takes time because she's giving it up to everybody else. So that's why it's 12 months for her to fully be supported and to support her in her mission and vision. Because once she really leans into herself, she realizes, oh, I got these missions and dreams and desires that I didn't push down, that I didn't have room for because everybody else was taking up space.
Hmm. This real,
But
real I'm gonna say real shit. Real
real,
shit. I love
real
it.
shit, real
Gotcha.
shit, yo shit. I did a series called Business of You, right? So that she could understand she is her business, right? Like these 7 keys are for you to get
Mm-hmm.
into the business of you as
Mm-hmm.
well. You can find that on my YouTube channel here, DisruptHer Coaching, that you're watching us on. Let me
Mm-hmm.
just check and see if anybody's out there and is tuned in because we've been getting into it.
Oh, but we don't want to ignore them if they were there.
If there are any questions. Greetings, Debbie. I see you out there. That's one of my other mastermind sisters. I'm in
Hey.
Arlen Hamilton's mastermind. Let me know if you have any questions for us. Anyone out there, if you have any questions, drop them real quick. We're going to be like maybe 2 or 3 more minutes and we're going to be out. Okay. And then I also have for the woman that may not be ready or believes she's ready because she's never invested in herself
Mhm.
before, I have the Abundance and Expansion Circle. And
Okay.
that is a 5-week program. It has
Mhm.
an accompanying journal, the Abundance and Expansion Journal, to
Okay.
give her reflective prompts and be in community and support. It's also got those 5 phases to help her have the evidence and the awareness to continue to support herself. Because now she's gonna be like, oh, this is what investing looks like. Oh, this is what real community looks like. Oh, this is what real support looks like. Oh,
Yeah.
I deserve that, right?
Serve
So
that.
there's three key things that happens in there, right? She
Mhm.
has to say hell, she gets to say hell no.
Okay.
She gets to say hell yes.
Yes.
She gets to ask for help.
Mm.
Big one that she tends to have a problem with. And so she's doing it in a safe community and learning the practices and the ways to do that safely.
Mhm.
Then it allows for her to receive the abundance because it can't happen until you make room for it.
I love that.
So you can expand. So those are my two
We're
signature.
gonna, you and I are gonna have to do a retreat together for these women or something.
Absolutely.
We have to
That
go down the
happens in
road.
the Get Your Shit Together circle too,
Mhm.
right? Because we know being in these spaces where we can calm our nervous system is very different than pulling up everywhere and still not present.
Mhm.
What both of my programs do is allow her, as you said, to get quiet, be quiet, right? So that she can hear her own voice and her thoughts and all of her desires.
Yeah, maybe for the first time ever, or for the first time in a long time. I think it's critical.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Thank
Well,
you
I've
for sharing that. I appreciate
enjoyed
it.
this and thank you for asking these beautiful questions. I
Mhm.
love to ask because I get to do all the asking as the host, but
Yeah.
I know people have questions,
Mhm.
right? And so thank you for showing up in this space, allowing this time to just flow because you got all the time. I love it. I love it. I love that.
Appreciate that.
Is there any final thing before we get up out of here?
No, I'm just grateful for this time, grateful to be here. Look forward to how this is going to be spread through the world and really enrich some people's lives. I think this conversation really will enrich some people and give them an opportunity to see a space for them to get what they need from their lives in
Absolutely.
all these domains that we talked about.
Absolutely, especially. Well, you all know how it goes down here. Until next time, take good care of you.